Welcome to another episode of The Leaders Room. I am your host, Samuel Nimako-Mensah, and today we have the privilege of sitting down with Kofi Kwarteng. Kofi is the Director of Data Analytics at AEM, and he is here to share his extraordinary journey moving from the capital of Ghana in Accra to the United States. Kofi's story is one that inspires hope, dreams, and aspirations, and he's here to also share his journey of how he's been helping other people on his journey as well. Welcome, Kofi.
All right. Thank you very much.
Right. So, Kofi, let's start by diving into some of your background and how you first of all came to the United States, and what did that look like?
All right. So yeah, it's I think it's always been a dream of my parents for me to come here once I'm done with school. So practically, I know like you said, raised in Ghana, spent in Ghana my whole life. So when I was done with how to call high school, basically the idea was that I will come to the US and study. But after I was done with high school, I had like a year break between trying to prepare for the what are they even called SATs
Hmm.
and come here. So I used practically that year to prepare for the how to go SATs. I took the SATs. I had a very decent score. Um, how to call it? All thanks be to God. And yeah, I
You're
applied.
being modest. You probably had a really great score.
I had a pretty decent score, and then I applied to a bunch of schools. So when I applied to a bunch of schools, I got how to call offers from a lot of schools. My mother said that since I was very new to the USA and I was going to be by myself, she advised that I go to how to call it, Oakwood University, which is an Adventist school.
Yeah.
I had the best time of my life there. I spent a year there. It was a very great school. I met very great people. Music, the sound, and everything was amazing. I had a great time there, but I think after a year, I realized that I would probably get more how to call it, opportunities if I transferred from there to how to Georgetown. So I spent a year at Oakwood, and then I transferred to Georgetown, and I spent the rest of my years there
Awesome.
until I was done with college. Yeah.
Right, right. So you've been in the United States for almost about 10 years now. What would you say are some of the challenges that you faced initially, right? Because it's a really big cultural shock moving from living in Ghana your whole life and then move coming to the United States when you are older. So what are some of the things that stood out to you as like real culture shocks for you when you moved here?
All right. So yeah, I think that is a very good question, and it's very difficult. Being in Ghana your whole life, and knowing everybody, the culture, and everything about Ghana, and coming here and like finding it's like an entirely different country, and was a huge culture shock to me. I struggled a bit. What I found easy was that I could speak in English. I know a lot of foreigners that come here that don't speak this one. They struggle a lot. I have an uncle who is a professor and mentioned that a lot of these foreigners who come and they speak foreign, like how to call it, foreign languages, struggle a lot. So I think I would say it wasn't easy, but it wasn't also too difficult. Since
Hmm.
I could speak the language, I could basically ask for help, navigate my way around numerous things. I would say that the most difficult culture shock to me was let's say practically not not really feeling that I was in the States. Because like I went to Oakwood University and it's a
Hmm.
black school. So I
Yeah,
wake up in the morning, I just see black people, So
yeah,
it's a certain time, when like when you wake up in the morning and you are still kind of drowsy from the sleep and everything. It takes a
yeah.
minute to like click that I was actually in the States. So I remember that there was this one morning that I woke up in the morning and I was late for class, tried to rush, showered, um, got out of like my hall, and then I basically spoke to like a friend in tree
Yeah.
because I'm thinking I'm in Ghana, so yeah, and there's a black people around me. Like I said, Oakwood is a black school. It's how to call it, historically black
Yeah. Yeah.
college, so a lot of black people. So yeah, it was those kind of things that you try to adjust to realize that you are not in uh, Ghana anymore. We're in the States. One other thing that really affected me was trying to how to call open doors. Here in America, usually you open doors towards you from the when you're inside the house, like from the inside.
That's
You
right.
bet you yeah, and in Ghana it is very different. You basically open the money inside the house outwards. So I struggle with doors a lot. So many times where I'll be struggling to get a door open and then like someone will just come and get a door for me.
Yeah.
Open the door. Well, yeah, it was the funniest experience ever. I also struggle with blinds. open.
Mm,
I couldn't open blinds because I could open them, but I couldn't get them to close because I didn't understand how like
yeah,
they work.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
took me a very long time to figure them out. So yeah, I think those were the few things that I really struggled
That
with.
is fascinating. It's these small subtleties that make
I
a
know.
huge difference.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So, coming from Ghana, you mentioned you wrote SAT. So it looks like you had some idea of what you wanted to do when you came to the United States. So,
Yes.
what was that kind of what was the path that you wanted to follow, and how did you end up becoming a director for a data analytics company that you currently work at now?
All right. So that's a good question. So my dad has been in tech. He was a computer scientist. He did a lot of programming. He did a lot of he had his own company, private company where he did a lot of consulting. He also did a lot of contracts for the how do you call it, Ghana government,
Hmm.
a lot of projects whatsoever. So I've been always been around tech. I had mentors who were my father's mentees. So like they were mentees, then mentors, and growing up, I've always practically been around like tech people. So I started coding at a very early age. Visual Basic 6. I picked it up around 9 years old. That was the time where I had a computer and I was bored out of my mind. My father didn't want us to play games.
Yeah,
So no games on the computer. How to call internet was dial up, so extremely slow. There was no practical purpose for it. So it's just in my way of trying to figure out what to do with a computer. I started just learning Visual Basic 6 and building apps. So the funny thing is that my father didn't even know that I could write code. He
wow.
didn't. Yeah, he didn't know I was programming. There was this one time that I was on a computer and then he came to look at what I was doing. He was sitting there for like 20 minutes. I didn't pay attention because I was just doing my thing. And
Yeah.
it's like, he was like, "How are you really doing this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just saw it in a book. I've been just doing some research, but it was very basic stuff I was building, like adding. You put like input one and one, and it gives you the results. It wasn't anything fancy,
Yeah.
but I started to understand how to code programming, logic of programming. So my father was pretty impressed, and that is when I think he started to like work on training me and then trying to get me to understand how to code programming and everything very well. So that's been my path. I started working on a lot of projects with him around 14, 15,
Hmm.
16, where I would during like I would go to school, but I would come back during breaks and I'll help him on projects and everything. So yeah, that is where I say I'll build the bulk of my how to call experience, technical experience, because I was working on actual projects that were used by the real world government, schools, and a lot of different companies and corporations. So
So it looks like your, family definitely had a big role to play in kind of your success at a young, early age. And, for those who are listening in, I think that, tuning into or taking advantage of your parents' profession in Kofi's case here is also a prime example of how that can sometimes help shape your future.
oh yeah.
So let's dive into, your current state here in the United States. You came here to study. You've probably tell me what you studied, what you graduated with, and what was your first job?
All right. So I started computer science. I switched over from computer science to how do you call it? How do you call it? Engineering, but it was still a little bit of big mix of computer science engineering. I did some math too, so I just wanted to play around with a different engineering. I kind of fascinated computer in engineering because I've always been a fan of like in engineering.
Yeah,
So yeah, I basically took a bunch of so basically I mixed out the three of them together to make sure that I was like an all rounded person and I had what I wanted. And then after that, I got an offer from Facebook.
nice.
Yeah, it was called Facebook then. Now
Yeah,
it's called, yeah. I think now it's called Meta.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I got an offer from Facebook, and that was my first role. So
Now, working at Facebook, I'm pretty sure you must have learned a lot of things. What was it like trying to fit into the culture at Facebook? And what were some of the struggles and what were some of the successes that you had at your time at Facebook?
I would say that the culture was a very huge culture shock because it's like I'm not saying I'm like the best person in the world, smartest person in the world or something, but there's certain times where you get very cocky,
Hmm.
especially coming at an early age and then being very good with tech. And then you go to a place where there's a lot of people who are like extremely good too, and you realize that you are not so special after all. Yeah, I mean, it's not really about the fact that I was being proud or anything,
Hmm.
but it's more of there was so much competition, it was very intense because
Yeah.
there were people who were extremely good as you are. So it's always trying to find how to call it yourself. So yeah.
Yeah. So in your role at Facebook, I'm sure it must have had something related to being a data scientist. So for our listeners, what is data science, and what does that role actually,
Um.
on a day-to-day basis, what does that role look like for you?
All right. So basically, how to call it? Anytime we say data science, it's a very broad role. It's practically an the whole to make it short and easy for our listeners to understand. Basically, data science is trying to understand data. We are in a world of data where practically everything is giving us data information. We have what they call social media cameras. We have literally all our devices that are smart devices and everything. They are all bringing in data. So basically, data science is trying to understand the data, trying to get insights from like data, using data for like benefits of whatever needs that you need to use the data for. So that's practically what data science is. But to basically reiterate, at Facebook, I wasn't a data scientist yet.
Got it. Got it.
Yes.
So now you are a data scientist, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you've been able to, and I'm pretty sure there's been a transition in your career, and that's been a pretty fast transition now that you're director.
Yes.
I want to give our listeners some kind of understanding about what you do as a director, right? Because a lot
Okay.
of that can, in some roles, a director, you manage a lot of people, but in some
Yes.
roles, you're also responsible for a lot of the actual technical implementation as kind of
Yes.
lead data scientist in that role. So,
Yeah.
which one of these buckets do you fall into in your role as a director for data analytics?
Okay. So I fall into the second bucket, which is more of like a lead data
Mhm.
scientist, which I'm in charge of basically trying to figure out the path we should go forward when it comes to how to call technical things that we should do regarding data science. So
Got it. And what are some of the technical difficulties of that role as compared to someone who was maybe just managing, people? And, as I really kind of want to understand from a day to day, what do you do as kind of that lead data scientist?
okay, from a day to day, I would say that it's very technical. So it's like you are being basically, since I'm like leading that there's some sense the regard, I have to be extremely technical because everybody is looking up to me for results, and they're not coming from like a master's or PhD background in data science, which like the bulk of people come from. It's practically even more difficult for me because most of the things that I know and have learned are all self-taught.
Yeah.
And it's practically me just trying to be on top of the game, reading a lot of data science out of papers, seeing what is going on in the world with AI, machine learning, and tech, and everything, and being basically upfront so that I can understand where this one is going to, wherever the in industry is trying to head towards, and then adapt whatever company that I work for to basically that path.
Got it. That's pretty cool. So you mentioned a term that I fascinates me, to be honest with you. You mentioned artificial intelligence. What
Yes.
is the intersection between data science and artificial intelligence? And is there an opportunity for people who are interested in data science to also work in the field of artificial intelligence?
All right. So basically, artificial intelligence AI is part of data science. The
Okay,
entire concept is that AI, artificial intelligence, works with data, trying to analyze data to make the data, how to call it, smart, intelligent data. And that is practically what AI is about. So data science encompasses AI and a lot of the, how to call it, machine learning tools or techniques that are used to build AI are all data science tools and how to techniques. And then data scientists are also AI scientists, the engineers, machine learning engineers. So yeah.
perfect. All right, before we pivot into our next segment, what is the one thing you love the most about your role, being hands-on data scientist, being a director, being that lead guy, people looking up to you? What's the one thing that you enjoy the most?
I think one thing I enjoy about the role is that I'm able to make an impact. I feel like for me, making impact, I always try to, anytime I'm interviewing or I'm going through the process of getting a new job or something, I always try to explain to them hiring me that I don't just get a job done. There's some people that, oh, do this, I do that, with a bare minimum. I like to be involved in the company because I want to believe that the company is doing something that I like, and I want to be like a article path of growth or whatever direction that a company is trying to head towards. So I think that being lead allows you to make more decisions that affect the company's bottom line article directly, and it's a very cool thing.
That's fantastic. That's great to hear, and I really celebrate your success that you've had with your current company, and keep up the good work. We're
All right,
gonna
thank you.
pivot. We're gonna pivot into our next section, and I know that apart from the fact that you're professionally you're involved with technology, you also have a role to play at your current church you worship
Yes.
at. So tell us a little bit about that and some of the assistance that you bring from a technical perspective to help your church grow.
All right. So yeah, basically my local church is the Philly, Ghana, Philadelphia. Ghana is the church, and I think I joined the church in 2019 when I moved here to Philly. So yeah, when I joined the church 2019, it was me trying to find my foot as like a new person. So it took me like a while to grow within the church, but I think COVID hit, and then I realized that they were struggling a lot with tech, and that is when I decided to, you know, lend my skills and my experience with I wouldn't necessarily say experience because a lot of things that I implemented were very new to me.
Hmm.
Um, so practically, I think that during COVID, one of the first things I remember that I helped with is what they had phone lines that you had to dial in. Back in the past to have meetings, and I was like, yeah, COVID has it. We cannot go to church. We have to move to Zoom. Um, Zoom was a little bit still new to them, and then I didn't have experience with Zoom. I had experience with what is it even called? GoToMeeting. That
Yeah.
was the app that my company was using, the video platform. Yeah, that my company was using at first. So I introduced them to GoToMeeting. They liked it, and then they started, having service on GoToMeeting. They've since switched to Zoom, but that was, I think, the first, and they were very impressed because it was video. So we're one of the
Yeah.
first churches that switched really fast to like Zoom or GoToMeeting for our church service rather than having the phone lines. And I think that it spread throughout the entire, USA, and other churches basically followed suit. So I believe it was 2021, and we were getting ready to go back to church. And then they were like, "Yep, now we're gonna go back to church. It's these things have come to stay: streaming, having service online, and all this kind of stuff." So they're gonna put me in charge of the project. It was a new project to me, so I basically talked to them, and then I think there was one of the church members that said that, he knew somebody who was in that mix, outside help. And yeah, so I told them that yeah, I basically accept that they bring outside help. It's gonna keep, as how do I describe it, how to call it, accountable. There are certain times where I don't know how to describe it. There's a lot of little like politics in church where you like kind of do something and it kind of messes up and everybody blames you. So usually I prefer to bring outside parties to to ensure that everything is being done up to standard and everything. So yeah, we brought in an outside party who basically had consulted on the project. But regarding most of the things we needed to build a product, I helped buy the product and everything and for the
So,
streaming. So
so, so what? Tell our audience what specifically the goal of the project was. What were you trying to achieve?
okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, good question. So what we're trying to achieve was to stream on Facebook, YouTube, and then Zoom to have our church members the ability of joining the service when they don't come to church. We wanted to make sure that our streams were really good. A lot of churches, I joined their streams and they have a lot of quality issues and quality problems. So I think that was the purpose of the product we're working on. So we had to buy mixers, a new like sound mixer, a new and new hardware cameras. We had to wire the entire televisions so that we can see the PowerPoint. And we basically replaced them. What are they even called? Projectors
Hmm.
with
Hmm.
televisions because projectors were really old, and then now the new thing is televisions.
Yeah.
Everybody is facing projectors because of televisions because they're now big enough. So yeah, so I think those were the kind of changes we made in the church. It took a lot of effort and time, but we are able to implement everything really well to to God glory. And so far everybody's impressed with our quality. Apparently we have one of the best quality here in the States, so that is
Yeah,
great.
I tune in sometimes to the live stream for the Philadelphia Ghana SD, and I am truly impressed by the quality and the professionalism that I think the team has put together. So kudos on that, and nice work. And it's really good to see, as a young person, to see some of your contributions, not only professionally but also to your church. So that's really nice to hear. All right, let's pivot to another section of our discussion today, which is about um, some of the help that you provide to other people who are looking to break into tech. And it's one of my favorite topics, and it's mentorship, because I think that, it's really nice to see someone like you be successful, be in a position to lead, being a director. But it's also another thing to give back to people or to help people as they are on their own individual journey. So tell us a little bit about your experience with mentorship and how you provide a pathway for people who would like to, similar to you, become or jump into the technology stream.
All right, yeah, that is a good question. So I think I mentioned at the beginning that basically my father was served as a this one to many people, mentor to many people. So growing up, I've always been around tech. Particularly when I came to US, one thing I really didn't struggle with was how to navigate tech roles, because I knew so many people in the industry that I should call. They told me what to expect for the interviews, how to prepare their resumes, how to how to call it, how to market themselves, and then all the fun stuff. So when I came to US, I realized that not everybody had that kind of experience that I had, because a lot of people who were studying computer science didn't even know how to call it, interview for jobs. You know that in tech interview like this, we have like this lead code, and all these like tests that we take, technical tests that we take to test our skills and everything. And you realize that a lot of people don't even know that they would have to take those tests for job interviews and everything. So I feel like it was my how do I describe it, duty to help um, others navigate the tech role, and it's not just in school, but outside of school, trying to find jobs, trying to find the right fit for them. So yeah, I serve as a mentor to a lot of people who get into tech. The age doesn't matter. I have like mentees who are like 40, 50s.
Yeah.
So yeah, the age doesn't matter to me. It's more like trying to help them, trying to basically um, give them whatever than I have in the industry. And then I think we are able to build we were able to build a very good community. Ghanaians, how to call it, Adventists in tech, which I think is a pretty cool thing. So certain times where I want people to refer me to role. I think that I even asked you last
Yeah.
year to refer a friend for a role. Exactly. So it's good to have contact in all these tech companies, and you hit somebody up, and I think it will and it's also adding people to those communities also helps, because they are able to like I said, work with people in the industry and understand how the industry is. One other last thing too, I also help a lot of them with is what is it even called? Um, uh, how to get very good hardcore offers.
Yes.
Negotiating, yeah, trying to
Often.
negotiate good
Yeah.
offers based on data that I've had, and then understanding their worth and everything. So I feel like it's one thing that a lot of times where I realize that a lot of us, for example, Black people, Africans, I would say, based on my experience, that we like just get a job. I'm sorry, we just get a job at a big tech company, and we are so excited to join the big tech company, but we don't realize that there's so much potential.
Yeah.
And then you realize that our whatever offer that we've been given is on the lower end
Right.
compared to what we could have gotten if we just simply asked.
Yep.
So I think it's that a lot of times that I work with a lot of people where they tell me their offer. I told them that let us ask for more. Where they would say it's no, right?
Yep. Yep.
So
I
yeah.
think that's so important. I'm laughing because I actually went through exactly the same situation when I first applied to my role in my current company, and I didn't know. It's just a simple matter of you just don't know you
Oh
can
yeah, you just don't know, and exactly. Yeah.
ask. So I think the work you're doing is tremendous, and it's helping people a lot. So coming wrapping up, tell us what are some of your future goals and any final thoughts that you'd like to leave with our audience today before we wrap up.
All right, so I think that my future goals is practically to inspire a lot of people into tech as possible. I think it's something that I think I really admire when I see a lot of how do Africans, Black people in general in tech. I think it's a space that we don't see lots of our people in high places, and I really inspire to add to help, like bring more people into tech, so that we can basically be mentors for ourselves and help ourselves grow and everything. So I think that has really been my goal ever since I got myself into tech. So Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, Kofi, and I wish you all the best on your journey, and we will be supporting you on the way.
All right. Thank you too.
That concludes another enlightening episode of The Leader's Room. We want to thank you, Kofi Kwarteng, for your time. We hope Kofi's story has inspired you. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please continue to subscribe, rate, and leave us with a review on things we can improve. Stay tuned for more stories of leadership and mentorship and personal growth. Until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and keep making a difference.